You guys, what if you could teleport? To jump from one place to the next within seconds? Think of all the time you could save, all the things you could do. It's no wonder then how so many movies and shows have given us such iconic teleporters. Who could forget David from Jumper, Blink from X-Men, Hughie from The Boys, Nightcrawler, Kirk and Spock, Harry Potter, Doctor Strange, and so much more we'll get into today. In this video, let's take a closer look at how each character was shown to teleport. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. First, let's go all the way back to the 1965 sitcom I Dream of Jeannie, which showed off the earliest example of teleportation.
Our special effects weren't very sophisticated. The popping in and out of scenes, everyone would have to freeze. And I ran out of the scene, and the director would say, 1, 2, 3, action, and everyone would continue.
It sounds simple enough, something anyone can do with a smartphone these days. But back then, this probably had your grandparents falling to their knees in a Walmart. Around that same time, Star Trek introduced their version of teleportation, the legendary transporter.
Beam me up.
Prepare to beam us up.
Beam us up.
Scotty, beam me up.
With that simple phrase, it could break human beings down into energy patterns and send them elsewhere to rematerialize. What started as a simple effect gradually evolved until finally settling in to its tornado-like form. Now let's jump a couple decades and dip our toes into the horror genre with 1986's The Fly. Seth Brundle, a brilliant scientist, works on a set of telepods designed to instantly send things between them. But when he tests it out on himself, he learns that something else got in the telepod with him. At first it's cool. He gets super strength, he can climb on the ceiling, and oh my god, he's falling apart. Somebody. Oh, you thought clickers in The Last of Us were gross? Brundlefly is your new nightmare. And while the movie didn't do anything crazy with showing teleportation, it did haunt our dreams by showing us the dark possibilities of what the technology could bring. Something 1999's Galaxy Quest also managed to do.
It turned inside out?
And it exploded.
But in 2003's X2, we were about to get a banger of a scene. If Nightcrawler wasn't already one of the most well-known teleporters, this White House sequence definitely put him on the map. After getting security guards backflipping like Power Rangers, it was time to figure out what the effect itself would look like.
The whole effect is a little bit like a thunderclap, because if he disappears from a scene, the air would rush in to take up that space.
That rush of air is what ends up creating the iconic BAMF.
It goes BAMF, like B-A-M-F, and that's the sort of noise he makes, and then he just, he just disappears. I'm up there for ages, and in the film I'll be there for like a second because I BAMF off somewhere else before they shoot.
They created fluid dynamics, stuck them to his moving body, and blended his colors back in for the final effect. In 2003, all this was pretty advanced. And with the help of previs and stunt coordination, this hectic hallway attack slowly came together. And while Nightcrawler used his powers for good, Azazel did not. Well, that's terrifying. And starting from Apocalypse, we got an updated Nightcrawler. With all the advancements in visual effects, these mother bampers showed us how exciting the power could look on screen. But in many ways, it was only the beginning. 2008's Jumper is a hidden gem that I still hold dear to this very day. Sure, it has a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics calling it erratic with little coherence. What are they talking about? Looks fine to me. But at the time, I was blown away because finally, a movie showed how cool it would be for the average kid to teleport. David Rice, born with a genetic anomaly, can travel anywhere in the world and even get digits from a Polish chick in Rio.
And I got digits from this Polish chick in Rio.
So how did they create the simple yet iconic look? It all started with a chair.
How do we make them teleport out of this chair? Roll the camera, sit in the chair, okay. Keep the camera rolling, get out of the chair. Looks like I Dream of Jeannie. Everybody knows it's just a jump cut.
To add some spice, they started moving the camera around the chair.
All right, well, wouldn't something happen to this chair? There's a vacuum created, and maybe my clothing would ruffle right before I jump.
With a moving camera, the chair jiggling, and a blast of air, they finally had the foundation of the teleporting effect. Mix all that with the classic freeze and unfreeze that we've seen before. And they pretty much nailed it. To really bring it to the next level, they introduced the jump scar.
When they jumped, they would create a scar in the space-time continuum.
Starting from concept art, they moved on to countless tests of a distortion look. Bending light through a rip in reality, their research produced a soft, broken-up look that felt organic, yet frenetic. With all these ideas put together, it was finally time to make the actors jump. Not what I meant. And to pull off some of these crazier sequences, they had to go with body doubles.
We're using 5 Griffins and maybe 3 Davids. They're all doing the same thing in different places around the set.
You'd never know they weren't all the same person. With death-defying stunts, an emphasis on practical effects, and endlessly clever ideas, Jumper was a thrilling ride. And after it, teleportation effects would never be the same again. You did good, guys. You did good. And in 2009, a comic book called Watchmen was brought to life, whose trailer is still one of the best I've ever seen. This movie showed an alternate timeline where morally ambiguous superheroes run amok on the streets. In all that mess, a nuclear physicist gets trapped in an intrinsic field chamber, then undergoes a painful transformation. He's seen pulling his body back together across different locations until we finally meet Dr. Manhattan. Oop, that's inappropriate. Gonzo called. He wants his nose back.
Not to get too graphic.
Aside from seeing past, present, and future all at once, bending matter to his will, duplication, changing size, and exploding people with a wave of his hand, another nifty trick he has is the ability to teleport.
I'm not leaving.
With the help of facial capture, a detailed CG model, some character animation, and a suit full of LED lights on set, they really made us believe that this otherworldly being was zapping in and out of space. Floating specks of dust get sucked into the center until he disappears in a miniature nuclear blast. And when he brings Silk Spectre along for the ride, we see that this can't be too comfortable for a normal human being. Gotta give it up to Watchmen for showing teleportation as realistic as this. But in the very same year, Harry Potter was about to put his own spin on it. While Order of the Phoenix showed this for the first time, it wasn't until Half-Blood Prince that we really saw the final effect. Out of the many ways to travel in the Harry Potter universe, brooms, flying cars, hippogriffs, flu networks, port keys, and public toilets, the fastest way to travel was to apparate and disapparate, a form of magical teleportation where the user travels instantly from one place to another. In the movies, the idea of suddenly appearing or disappearing had already gone through several variations, but the VFX team came up with a never-before-seen concept, having the body twist and twirl in a violent glob of thick spaghetti. They started by using a clean plate without the actors, selectively bringing them back in and filling the rest with CGI. Something this cool didn't come cheap, so you can tell whenever they tried to save money by just not actually showing it. Don't think I don't see what you're doing. And when Harry, Ron, and Hermione escape from Yaxley at the Ministry of Magic, we get a more detailed look at the effect from their perspective. Seeing their contorted, stretched out, and merging faces was one of the cooler visuals from all 8 movies, and it put a whole new spin on the concept of teleportation. But a few years later in 2014, we got X-Men: Days of Future Past. While the first thing that comes to mind might be Quicksilver's kitchen scene, oh, watch out. Another that captured our imagination was the terrifying Sentinel battle. The teleporting Blink, whose real name is Clarice Ferguson, bet you didn't see that coming, had purple hair, green eyes, and could throw pink portals whenever the team needed them. Whether it was to give Warpath higher ground, let Kitty and Bishop escape, or send Iceman to their rescue, this mutant's power was super useful, and in an action sequence that already had a ton of visual effects, these portals were their own challenge.
The portals become basically windows in space into another set or another background.
And then it'll all go whoop.
We're shooting a shot and we're seeing a view of something with a portal in it. But we also need to shoot the view that's in the portal from whichever angle that it's meant to be at.
These things get pretty complicated pretty quickly.
And to show you just how complicated, let's take a closer look at this scene. Blink emerges from her first portal from another set, throws a second portal that the Sentinel falls through. Through that portal, we see Blink and Warpath from the back. As the Sentinel turns around, we see 2 angles of it from different perspectives. At the end of the movie, when our heroes make their final stand at a snowy temple, we see that Blink's still got a few tricks up her sleeve. By starting with the green screen footage, they extend the set, add in the windows into other angles, build up the portal effects, and we get our final hero shot before she becomes a shish kebab. You can't deny that Blink showed teleportation in a fun new way. But a couple years later in 2016, and we were about to meet a doctor who was a little strange. In a cinematic universe full of different superpowers, a simple thing like a portal is bound to have a ton of interpretations. Smoky blue space stone ones, green and globby gross ones, flat remote controlled ones, blocky orange door ones, and crackly crystal star ones. We haven't even gotten to the most iconic Marvel portal, the sparkly Doctor Strange ones. Under the Ancient One's guidance and a sleek new sling ring, Stephen Strange starts to learn the ways of the mystic arts. With enough practice, he finally becomes the Sorcerer Supreme.
The mirror zone? What?
The parking zone. You can't park here.
And when he's not messing with Thor, he's making portals.
Bye-bye.
The spinning, sizzling sling ring creation has a lot of moving parts. On set, they use a giant LED ring that casts an orange light onto the environment, and Doctor Strange himself. With this ring of light, you really get the sense that he actually passes through the portal. Green screen was set up that allowed them to put any environment in its place. With the buildup of effects on top of that, we got the final look. And in Endgame, there was no going back. Everyone was about to lose their damn minds at the portal scene.
On your left.
It's been 5 years, and I still sob uncontrollably. No other portal in cinema has been so versatile, pushed through so many different characters, even if it sometimes got a little awkward. Doesn't hit the same at home, does it? And now that portals in comic book movies could reach into the multiverse, we got some even crazier examples. But now it's time to talk about a different kind of portal. In 2018's Incredibles 2. While Jack Jack was the first to show off the power, it wasn't until the sequel where we met a new teleporter called Voyd.
Voyd is one of the young supers. I would be able to create a little series of voids that the coffee cup can fit through, and it would come through space and land in my hand. I mean, it's kind of amazing.
Starting with concepts of dozens of superpowered characters, sketching out what abilities they might possess, they gradually narrowed down the look of this neon blue and green superhero.
She's athletic and angular because she's doing this thing where she has to think fast.
Thinking about how that would actually work was a bit of a mind bender. Fortunately, we have lots of genius math and technical people who can understand, but it might as well be magic.
She's able to enter any space, stick a speedster in a loop, draw her enemies closer, infiltrate their defenses, draw them out of their shields, and redirect their attacks. And when she finally sheds the evil goggles, she works together with Elastigirl to board the villain's jet. For a movie with a ton of memorable characters and exciting concepts, Voyd left a mark, and the implications of her power are definitely fun to think about. And the very next year, the Umbrella Academy introduced Five, who had his own unique look.
Or what?
Fast forward to season 3 of The Boys, Hughie Campbell shoots up Compound V, and in a moment of desperation, gains the ability to teleport.
I'm sorry.
You'll notice right away that his clothes don't teleport with him. The showrunners, in trying to figure out the most realistic way to show off superpowers, reasoned that since clothes were inorganic, they'd have no reason to stay on him, hence all the nakedness.
What the hell? Why the f am I naked?
And since the temporary dose of superpowers can have some unwanted side effects, all of his teammates think this is a very bad idea. But Hughie starts to get a little intoxicated with his newfound abilities. After being the beta of the group for so long...
So what's the best part of playing Homelander?
Not having to do any scenes with you.
Oh, we're friends in real life. He's
He's finally able to stand up for himself.
Can't believe Hughie is actually participating in a fight. I get to shove Homelander. That felt good.
A closer look reveals an effect that's not too far away from Nightcrawlers from almost 20 years ago. In a world of hundreds of different powers, they managed to make Hughie's feel exciting to watch. Meanwhile, somewhere outside time itself, Loki be slipping up. In season 2 of the mind-bending show, one of the most impressive visuals was time slipping, and while it is a mixture of traveling through space and time, the look they came up with is an interesting take on teleportation.
Every atom, every cell in his body is being ripped and pulled apart, and then reassembled very quickly, a kind of re-ripping in another time.
To make matters worse, it hurt like hell.
It looking like he's being born and dying all at the same time. You actually make it feel gruesome and almost like a horror movie, but not in a bloody guts and gore way, but something that's just a little bit more stylish and elegant.
So how did they create this never-before-seen effect? Well, first, Tom Hiddleston spun, twirled, and flipped like a maniac. This man be putting his kid through college doing all that. With a ton of footage to choose from, they strung together the most dynamic poses, and shooting it all against a green screen on the side meant that they could isolate the takes, match a CG Loki to his movements, and you could create the spaghetti-like strands on the frames in between. And what about the audio?
We played with sounds, so we had stretching sounds, bone crunching sounds that would really enhance the visuals for the time slipping.
Every once in a while, you'll see something in the MCU that looks truly unique, and it can either make or break an entire movie or show. For Loki Season 2, time slipping was a huge part of the plot, and through some genius teamwork, we got yet another fantastic interpretation of Teleportation. So at the end of this video, I hope you've gotten a better understanding of how different characters across decades of movies and shows were shown to teleport. Almost 60 years ago, teleportation looked like this. Just last year, it advanced to this. We can only imagine what teleportation will look like tomorrow. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble. Hey, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.